Hello guys, my name is Adrian and welcome to my channel. If you are new to the channel, I am trying here to create a game engine in order to be used for some future games. I'm using C++ and OpenGL. So far we implemented just a simple window. We are using Win32 API because we are focused now just on Windows platform. So far we created a window. We handled the window events. We created a basic window manager, and today is the time to implement the Windows input. So far, we kind of, let's say, designed our framework by having these base classes. We have a base class for window. We have one for window events. For now, we are handling things like the close. If the window is closed, we are handling this message, and today we will work more in order to handle the input. I know the input, it's also some event that it's part of the window, but because we want to handle the window separately, we will put the callbacks in a different file. So before we are starting, I will add a new directory in the core. I will call it input. In the input, I'll add a header which will be called codes. In here, we will have all the codes that are kind of used in our game engine and in our game. And for example, we'll have the namespace. Like always, we'll put the name of the folder, so we'll have something like core input. And inside here, we'll have an enum class, which will be called codes. Here we'll have things like key, for example, key W, key A, key S, key D, and we can have things like key space, escape, I don't know, enter or tab. And for the mouse, because we want to have the codes for both keys and mouse, we'll name for the mouse, we'll name something like button left, button right, and middle. I'll prefer to have the middle as the one in the middle, of course. So we have left, middle, and right buttons. This will be for the mouse buttons, the others will be for the keyboard. Okay, so what we are doing with these ones? First, we are going inside the base and we are adding something like this: window input callbacks. Okay, and another one, it will be window input. Okay, now like for every file that we have in the base folder, we need for sure to have one in the Windows. So let's create a class here called window input. Okay, of course, in the Windows, we need to make this window input part of the CMake project. Now, because we made it part of the window project, of the CMake project, we can kind of already include the core base window input. It's the same that we did for the window events. Okay. Because we included in here, now also let's change the namespace to Windows for both of them. And now what we can do into the base class here, we can have something like namespace, core base, and we can have a class window input as the base class for our input. In here, we need to have the same core base. And what we will do here, we'll have a struct Windows input callbacks, similar with what we have for events. And what we will add here, first we need to include for sure the input codes. window.hpp. Also, what we need to do is to include it here. We need to include window input callbacks, the same that we did for the window events. Okay. So now let's try to run this project. Now we have a problem. We cannot include input codes. I don't know why that it's happening, but let's check it. We have this part here. Maybe just a second. Maybe we need to use, for example, something like core input codes. Okay. Let's see that we don't have any error. The window is still there. We have it. Everything is good. In the callbacks, similar to what we have for the events. Okay, we'll put it here to have it as a reference. In here, what we'll do will be like std function. We'll have the void, input, codes, and we'll have a boolean. The boolean will represent the state. Okay, and we'll have first kpress, and the second one will be the same, and it will not be called key release. It will be mouse press, or if we want, we can have it like button press, but it makes more sense to have it as mouse press because we will have more, let's say, window or input events in the future. For now, let's just try to get over with those. So inside the window input, first, similar with what we have in the events, and let's put the events here to have it as a reference. We will need to have, of course, the window input callbacks as the callbacks. We'll have it as public, so we don't need to put an underscore there. And in here we'll have something like auto init, of course, constant std unique pointer, which should be a window. And of course, we need to include that window definition inside here. Window, and of course, you guessed it, void and pure virtual. The same will have a release one with the same definition, because we need this window in order to save the property like we did for the window events. Okay, let's see where is the problem here. I put the wrong code, let's say. And now what we will have further, we will have something like auto, and we'll have something like init codes. This we can have it as, let's say, why not the second one here. So let's have something like this. This needs to be also pure virtual. I don't know. We can either put it here and have it like this, or we can put it at the end and have it like this. In the end, probably doesn't matter so much. Okay, what we'll have further? We will have a virtual, and of course, virtual destructor. That's quite useful. Okay, and what we will do further in our base window input class, I want to have an std on order map, which will have the int as the key. As for the value, we'll have the input codes, and we'll name these codes. That's pretty much everything that we want to do and to kind of obtain for our part. So this is how our window input base class looks like. If we want, we can have it like this. If not, we can just let it. Okay, so this is the base class. We need now for sure to go and inside the window version, we need to implement all of this. Final, public, core, base, input, public, and we'll have the init, we'll have the release, and we'll have the init codes. But for the init codes, we will let it as private. If we want, we can kind of put this one as private here also. It's not a problem. But let's say that maybe I think it can be in the end, it can be private also here, just to kind of, let's say, have a guideline to know that this will be public and this will be private. If we want to go a little crazy, we can put also this public again. So we have public functions, private functions, and in the end we'll have the public members. Why not? This can stay like this. I don't have a problem. Okay, so now that we just created these situations, of course we need to generate. So let's generate these functions. Okay, and very simple. In the init we are using set prop, and we are using the AI to autocomplete the situation. Like I said, it's very similar with what we had on the window events. So we kind of have similar code here, nothing different. But what we'll do different and special in the init codes, we'll do something like codes. For example, vk escape. This is the code that is kind of sent from Win32. So we want in the map to map at the key vk escape. We want to use core input key escape, for example. The same we can do for the space, and the same we can do for the tab, for example. Okay, so we mapped the key. That's good. What we need to do in the init, we need to call this init codes. That's very important to have the codes, let's say, filled and to have the proper mapping. And now what we need to do? First, we need to go inside our window manager, because the window manager will keep also some window input. But first, we need to go in the platforms factory. And in here, we will include, very simple, window input. Okay. What we will do here, we'll have a virtual auto create window input. And for sure, we need to go here also. And we need to create it. What we will do, in the end, we need also to include the window input. And in here, we need to return a window input in our platform. I explained a little in the previous video. So if you are curious about what is happening here and why we are doing this, you can watch the previous video. Okay, so we have this part. Now what we need to do is to go in here and to add a new member as window input. Of course, we need to add also the let's say the getter for it, and of course return window input. That's simple one. Now in the init, of course, the new member needs to be part of it. So we'll have the window input. It will be created from the factory, and in the end we will initialize it with the window parameter. So now we are kind of initializing the situation. That's good. If we are going in here, for example, and we are doing something like window manager, window input, callbacks, and I want, for example, on key pressed to do something. Let's see. Maybe I want to use std print ln. Of course, for the print ln to be available, I need to include here the print. Let's include the print. And let's have a message. Something like key pressed or key, and let's have something like key and the state. And for sure, just a second, for this we need to have something like Win32 type. Okay, it's very important. Why? Because this is how we kind of have. So it's not the key, it's the input codes and a boolean called state, for example. We don't have access to that, so probably needs to put the core also. Just a second, I put the core input. Yes, I put the core input. So we are very close to finish with this. So we'll have the codes and, sorry, the codes code or key. Why not? It can be called key if you want. Key and the state. Okie dokie. So now if we are running the code, we have first an error. We need to cast this as Win32 type because the enum doesn't know what it is. If I'm pressing space or escape or tab, nothing is happening. I don't have a message in the console. But why is that? It's because in here we are not, let's say, handle, just a second, in here we are not handling the events in the window. How do we do that? It's very simple and very similar to what we did for the, let's say, for the window close. For the key, we have 4 events that the window will fire up for us. We have the key up, we have the key down, we have another pair sys key up, which, and of course, key sys down. And what is the catch? For the first 2, it is very simple. It means when we are pressing any key on the keyboard, we are getting these messages triggered. But for example, for the let's say when you are keeping Alt key and you are pressing another key, it will trigger these messages. So that's why we need to handle both of them. What we will do here, constant auto window input, we will get the property input, very simple. Let's see, just a second. Okay, for the window input, we will check it that it's valid and null, not null, sorry. And what will do further? We will check also the callback, that if the callback is valid, and if that it's everything and it's working, we'll do something like this: constant auto state equal, and we'll have this macro high word, which will means that we'll take the high part or the left part of the int. It will do some shifting. So let's say this L parameter can keep, just a sec, L parameter keeps, for example, in one integer keeps 2 separate information. So for us, we need to take the left part of the integer, and we need to do shift, sorry, on just a second, AND operator, and we need to check it with keyboard up, and we need to check if it's 0. This will tell us if the state is pressed, if it's 0. What we need to do further, we need to take the key, and the key will take it from this W param. Okay, we don't need to shift, we don't need to do anything. For us, this param will come from this message. Further, what we need to do, we need to have an iterator that goes with the, just a second, with the window input, codes, find, and we'll try to find the key. And if the key, it's defined at the end, so we have the key, what we are doing is like calling callback, press, we are using the second one, the value, and the state. Also, let's align this like this. Now, at the end, of course, we need to put a break to kind of stop the processing of the pressing of the button. Now, if you are pressing a space, it will say like K4, state true, at the end, state false, because I press it and I release it. If I'm pressing, for example, escape, and I'm keeping the press, I will have a lot of messages, true, 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 and all that stuff. And at the end, we have a false. What we can do now, because we are still getting this message like a lot, okay, this is kind of, seems that it's called like every time you are doing something. Maybe we can check like if the case, it's the key is already set, maybe just not call the callback again and so on. We'll see how we will handle this later. For the mouse button, it's kind of a different situation, and we have something like this: L button up, we have VM M button up, and we have R VM R button. This is the scenario where you handle if the button was released. Okay, so how do we do that? We kind of start with the same situation, okay? If constant auto window input equal with static cast, we are taking the input. Just a second, and we are checking if the mouse press callback exists. And if it exists, we are doing something like this: constant auto button, sorry. In this situation, we already know that the key was up. We don't need to take the state like this. We already know. But what we need to do, we need to take the message and do something like this. If this is the message is equal with this, we want to return L button. Otherwise, okay, otherwise we want to do something. If the middle button is this, if not, in the end, we will return the right, let's say, click. If constant auto, the same, but at the end, we are calling the mouse press. And we keep false, because the state is false, because it's up. Now, what we can do something like this: window input callback mouse press equal, and we can do the same. We can have here like button instead of the key, and just button state, and let's put also semicolon here, and let's see what we get. So if I'm pressing something here, on the mouse doesn't work. That's not quite okay. So let's see. Why it's not working? It's very simple. Because we don't, in the window input here, we are not doing something like codes, VKL button. And let's see, just a second, double checking. Okay, VK left button, okay. And this should be like core input codes but left. And we are doing the same for the other ones. So now, because we are handling the codes, if I'm pressing the button, you see we are having the state false because I'm releasing. If I'm pressing and not releasing, you see I'm not handling the message. Okay, and that's good. So guys, because I want to keep the video short, this is mainly how we can add the window input. We handle the pressing on the mouse button. What I challenge you to do is to go like in here and to kind of, let's say, handle the down version. Okay, instead of up, it's down, and to call the appropriate state for the mouse press callback. The function, it will be very, 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 very similar with what we have here. Okay, but instead you should have here true and here should be down. Okay, so guys, this is the window input that you can have with Win32. We have the key pressed. In the next video, we should handle we should have a input. We should have some input manager, because right now I'm showing the version where you are handling the callbacks as you would do in glfw, for example. And I want to keep this also for my library. But by having an input manager, we can kind of enrich the input functionality for our game engine, and it will be much easier to use. So what it will remain for us, it will be to create an input manager and to handle it here. To couple it, it will be separate from the whole input situation, but we will need to couple it into these two callbacks. If someone else wants to do their own input manager, they can go and do that, and they can input this part very simple. So thanks for watching. We'll talk about the input manager in the next video. Have a nice day. Thanks for being here. As soon as we have something also to be drawn on the screen, we will start the lives with our game. And of course, thanks for watching. Have a nice day and see you in the next video. Bye bye.